Good evening. Happy Wednesday. I know many of you will be watching this video in a replay because, well, right now you're watching the vice presidential debates. I'm taping it. As soon as I'm done with you, I will go learn what you learned. Um, but I felt a responsibility to be here at 7 for you. Good evening, Tina. Glad you're here. And, um, and we'll talk. We'll spend some time together. And those of you who are watching the debate, that is absolutely an excused absence. Believe me, if I were you, I'd probably be watching the debate. Um, so I'm curious about whether or not the plexiglass stayed or went. Um, well, I'm curious about exactly what's going to happen during the entire thing. So I will watch the replay as soon as I'm done. In the meantime, I'm here for you at whatever time you log in and check out what's going on. So, um, thoughts tonight. I've had another song running in my head all day, and I don't quite know whether I want to talk about it now or save it and make an entire talk out of it. So I'll let you know. But if I seem to wander off at some point, it's because the song has taken over my head once again. So Tina's cuddled between two cats. That's a nice place to be. That's a really nice place to be. I was cuddling with a cat a few minutes ago myself. We actually had one, two, three of them in here a few minutes ago. One of them has excused herself, which is probably just as well because she's the talkative one. And one is asleep on the printer and hopefully will stay there asleep on the printer. And the other one wanders in and out at will. He had some surgery last week, and he likes to play the victim card. So he comes in and just kind of looks helplessly and wants to be picked up and cuddled. And of course, I just hate to do that. He's a rag doll. You have to pay attention to a rag doll. So that's my cat story, and I'm sticking with it. How's your week gone? How have things been for you? This is Hump Day. Happy Hump Day. This is middle of the week. How's the week going? Is it going the way you want it to? Does it need a little extra boost to get it going better? Are you looking forward to the rest of the week? I am, actually. I've got kind of a busy week on the schedule ahead, but I am looking forward to it. And I take you all with me when I go. I will. Not well, Tina says. Is the week not going well? One of those weeks? Or what? Fill me in. Give me some details. I love to know what's going on in all of your lives. And if you're out there just listening, check in so we know you're there. Oh, dear. No bonuses last year or this year. That's not fun to hear. That's not, especially when you're buying a new house, huh? Got it. Got it. That's not fun. And then I suppose there's always simply being grateful that you've got a job, because so many people don't right now. So many people don't. It's a hard time. It's a difficult time. Everybody's kind of trying to readjust to whatever this is that's going on right now. They're calling it the new normal. There's nothing normal about it, is there? Except the presence of God. I've got to go there. I've got to go there. You know, what's normal about right now is normal for right now, and this too shall pass. It came to pass. It didn't come to stay. And life will change, and life will go on, and we will adjust because we are flexible. Spiritually flexible. kind of like that idea, don't you? That we can adjust. We can look at things and know them for what they are, and know that even the worst circumstances are not going to last forever. Everything comes to pass. Everything changes all the time. Sometimes it hits us like a ton of bricks, like this last series of events has hit us, and sometimes it sneaks up on us slowly. Sometimes the ones that hit us like a ton of bricks are actually the kindest, because we go, whoa, and know that we must adjust quickly. Sometimes when it sneaks up on you, you find yourself in the middle of a quagmire without realizing how you got there. And that is sometimes much harder to adjust to. Look for the blessing. Look for the blessing. That's the one thing I feel is certain, is that everything has a blessing in it. It is not always readily apparent. It is not always easy to find or to get to. And it doesn't always show up at once. But I really do believe that everything that comes into our life brings with it a blessing. And that if we insist upon finding it, we will. And when we find it, it changes things for the better. But we have to look. And we have to insist. We have to believe, we have to look, we have to insist. And then, well, then we find it, don't we? I'm getting notes from the technical department that is having problems with its technology. So,
yeah, it's telling me live feed's interrupted, and so I'm going to go check it downstairs.
Would you please?
Yeah.
Okay, it says it's still here on my computer, so I'm going to assume that it is, and that Tina will tell me if I go away. Tina says there's nothing that good wine and good friends won't solve, and cats. I agree. I agree. Well, and I have to add, and puppies, because we got a cuddle bunny now. New puppy is a cuddle bunny. He's all dog. He's the only one we've ever had that plays with toys, which just tickles both of us pink. And he loves to go for a walk. That's the highlight of his entire day. But at the end of the day, he's up on the couch right next to us and cuddling and smooching, and he's pretty cool. The new little guy. Tipsy. Tipsy Fox. All right, so here we are. Why don't I talk about what I was going to talk about? Let's just see. I'm going to start out probably by dating myself. Oh, I know for sure I'm going to date myself. There's no doubt about it. I used to say I went out of music in the 60s. I was busy having kids and watching Sesame Street and singing the alphabet song, and kind of lost track of a lot of popular music. So a lot of my favorite music dates back to the 60s. I come in and out since then, but I used to say I knew the words to every song ever written, especially, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. Killer. And then they lost me. They lost me, and I lost the words. But Anyway, what I'm leading up to is one of my all-time favorite singers is John Denver. And one of my all-time favorite songs is I Want to Live. I've got a reason for it. That particular song actually helped heal me at a really low physical point in my life. It made me stop and think and really decide that I really did want to live. And I wanted to live free of what was holding me back. And I really do believe that that song and that decision changed my life forever. I cried when John Denver died. Actually, I cried a lot that whole week. The obituaries that week in October of 1997 included John Denver, who died on my birthday, Harold Robbins, who died 2 days later, and James Michener, who died 2 days after that. 3 men who had radically influenced the world, 3 men who had radically influenced my life, all gone within days of each other. It was heartbreaking. I remember reading their obituaries in Newsweek, and I remember that even at the time, I couldn't help but make some comparisons between those 3 men and the 2 women and 1 gentleman who occupied the same obituary space in Newsweek only a month and a half before that. Princess Diana had died on August 31st. Are you old enough to remember where you were when you heard about it? I am. I am. We were taking the bus, the transfer bus back from the Hollywood Bowl to our car, and some people who had been listening, I guess, to their radios while they were at the concert were talking about it. It had just happened. Viktor Frankl, the amazing Viktor Frankl, died 3 days later. And Mother Teresa died 3 days after that. All of these people had led very, very public lives. Lives which touched and changed the public in many different ways. Who can't hum at least one John Denver tune? Or feel the sunshine on your shoulders and not think of Denver and feel happy? Robbins' Carpetbaggers was practically required reading when I was a teenager. In fact, as far as I was concerned, it was required reading. And then most of us who tend to keep every book we love on we know, like me, have an entire shelf for James Michener, who I even talked about last week. Robbins wrote 24 novels. He was an executive at Universal Pictures. He was a multi-millionaire from sales of 750 million copies of his books worldwide, many of which were made into movies and helped that multi-millionaire status, I'm sure. Denver wrote volumes of hits, starting with Leaving on a Jet Plane for Peter, Paul, and Mary, and then there was Rocky Mountain High and Annie's Song and I Want to Live. And for Buckminster Fuller, What One Man Can Do. Denver was an environmentalist before most of us had a clue what that word meant. Michener was the Pulitzer Prize winning author of South Pacific, but he also wrote about Texas and Chesapeake and Alaska and Iberia. His first blockbuster bestseller was Hawaii. He was the largest single benefactor of the University of Texas, and his gifts topped $37 million. His generosity to schools and charities was known to be over $100 million. But you know, it wasn't always sunshine on their shoulders. Robbins was a high school dropout. Denver was twice divorced, twice arrested for DUIs, and was born Henry John Dusendorf Jr., for which you gotta know he took a lot of flack. Michener was a foundling, raised in a foster home. He never knew his actual birthday. So his biographer wrote he was about 90 when he died. He was doomed and deemed a bad Quaker, which was a good thing for us. Because if he had stuck with the philosophy by which he was raised, he would never have enlisted in the Navy, never been shipped out to the Solomon Islands, never have collected the material for his first novel, Tales of the South Pacific. And the world would have been a sadder and poorer place without the stories and the musical those stories gave birth to. Speaking of not being able to hum a John Denver tune, there probably isn't a one of us that can't hum a tune from South Pacific. The point is this, my point is this: none of these men were born famous or rich. And their stories tell us that we can all be somebody if we are willing to get over our excuses, stop whining about the past, and get on with our lives. So how do we do that? Well, I believe, we begin to believe, that there's more to our lives than our stories. But someone would say, my story is that I was abused. And I'm sorry you were abused. And I'm not unsympathetic. But when was that? And have you moved on? Or people have said to me, I was raised in the wrong religion. Okay. But what do you believe today? By what word are you living now? Or someone will say, well, I didn't get an education. I didn't finish high school, or I didn't get to go to college, or I didn't finish college. Robbins, the multi-millionaire, dropped out. And then I have heard people say, I'm just not one of the beautiful people. Did you ever see a picture of John Denver? And then, of course, there's always the world is a big, mean, violent, messy, screwed up place. And maybe so. But what are you going to do about that? What can one person do about that? John Denver wrote What One Man Can Do for R. Buckminster Fuller, who died in 1983. Fuller was an amazing man. I had the privilege of hearing him speak one time, and you knew you were sitting in the presence of an icon, a true Renaissance man. In 1963, Bucky, he liked apparently to be called Bucky, Bucky wrote, "No more second-hand God." And in it he said, God is a verb. Then 7 years later, in 1970, he publicly accepted the mantle when he wrote, I seem to be a verb. Sure, there are a lot of challenges in this world. The environment, the Middle East, national debt, a pandemic, health, relationships, money, a lot of challenges. The problem, Fuller said, and I tend to agree with him, is often that we know too much. And he challenged us to dare to be naive. Yes, dare to be naive. Dare to be hopeful. Dare to look beyond the appearances. Dare to see the world as God sees it. A playground, a canvas, a laboratory. And then find a way to love the world, your world, back to health. Fuller said that love was metaphysical gravity. Gravity holds things together. I think he would say stop complaining about the world. Stop complaining about your life and start loving it. You'll find things to do. Because if you are paying any attention, you already know that there's a lot to be done. Ernest Holmes once wrote, oh, there's an interesting sound. One of the first things to do is to love everybody. Begin to do it, he said, at once. For love is the sole impulse for creation. You want to change the world? I want to change the world. Then change your mind about the world. Change the way you live in your world. Bucky Fuller once said, I'm the only guinea pig I have. Love the world. I know it isn't always easy. I never said it was easy, but love the world. Love the people in it. Love yourself. Love the creative force that began it all. Love God. Here's a thought. Practice being what you want to be instead of perpetuating who you've always thought you were. Holmes again. Blot out, one by one, all ideas that you are limited, poor, or miserable. Just blot. Refuse to think of failure or doubt your own power. Just get rid of them. Blot them out. I like that idea. Kermit the Frog, another one of my incidental favorites, the alter ego of his creator, Jim Henson, was born in a swamp. One of 3,000 siblings, he says. Self-described plain, green, and simple. And at the same time, star of stage, screen, television, and an author. He wrote a book called One Frog Can Make a Difference, in which we find affirmation for those who are green. I am a wonderful frog. I can eat as many flies as I want without gaining weight. I may not be able to run with the wolves, but I can sure hop with them. And my favorite, someday I'll find it. The rainbow connection. The lovers, the dreamers, and me. And for Kermit, the ultimate affirmation. It's easy being green. You may laugh, but keep in mind your words create your world. And Kermit was speaking for himself. Your word is one with infinite life. Your word, spoken from an open heart, spoken in trust, is taken up by life and acted upon, and that establishes a new world order. What do you want from your life? What do you want to accomplish? Tina, you say you're getting ready to retire. What are you going to retire into? Claim it. Create it. Bucky Fuller did. In No More Secondhand God and Other Writings, he wrote, "The revolution has come. Set on fire from the top. Let it burn swiftly. Neither the branches, trunk, nor roots will be endangered. Only last year's leaves and the parasite-bearded moss and orchids will not be there when the next spring brings fresh growth and freestanding flowers." God's purpose, Fuller believed, was not to sit back and watch the universe, but to be intimately engaged in it. He wrote, "Here is God's purpose. For God, to me, it seems, is a verb, not a noun, proper or improper. God is the articulation, not the art, objective or subjective. God is loving, the verb, not the abstraction love, commanded or entreated. God is knowledge, dynamic, not legislative code, not proclamation law, not academic dogma nor ecclesiastical canon. God is a verb, the most active verb, connoting the vast harmonic reordering of the universe from unleashed chaos of energy." Wow. And Fuller goes on with a prediction and a challenge, I believe. "There is now only half a world left," he writes, "and one half of our time remaining, in which to let our hair all the way down and say, we have plenty. We have the means, the ability, the knowledge. Let us start the mechanism to creative account, not to vast and vaster destruction. Let us start the mechanism to creative account, not to vast and vaster destruction. We have plenty. We have the means. We have the ability. We have the knowledge. And we have even more of those today than we did when he wrote this. As though he were alive with us today, his words are alive with knowing. He says, no one in America will say that its leader is overstepping his authorized bounds if he takes sincere, forthright, and adequately big steps to accomplish world healing. God, Fuller writes, will be handling the radio telegraph for such a mandated dictatorship. And democracy is not challenged by such a dictator whose very first move must and will be tidal waved with authority. Stop calling names, he writes, names that are meaningless. And as though in response to the current pandemic, in 1940, Fuller wrote, "You can't suppress God by killing off people, which are physically only transceiver mechanisms through which God is broadcasting. But his requirement is dynamic, and if man mechanism proves too inefficient as an invention, he will immediately devise a cataclysmic improvement." And ain't it so that if we are not up to the task, then the task will overcome us? But we are. But Fuller, like most geniuses, didn't just complain, didn't just prophesy. He thought about what was coming and suggested change. He wrote, "I've thought through to tomorrow, which is also today. The telephone rings and you say to me, 'Hello, Buckling, this is Christopher.' Or, 'Daddy, this is Allegra.' Or, 'Mr. Fuller, this is the telephone company business office.' And I say to you, you are inaccurate, because I knew you were going to call, and furthermore, I recognize that it is God who is speaking. And you say, 'Aren't you being fantastic?' And knowing you, I say, 'No.' At least 250 million people sit quietly for hours in darkened halls and say they are at the movies, not looking at anyone or anything real. They certainly don't see the screen. I say they are looking at God." So here's tonight's question. Are you looking at God? Or more importantly, are you seeing God everywhere, in everything, in everyone? And are you listening? I try to listen. Sometimes I think I'm even reasonably good at it. I have on numerous occasions been accused justifiably of speaking in song titles. Tonight I'd like to go just a step farther and use some lyrics. Please listen. In honor of Bucky Fuller, John Denver wrote, "It's hard to tell the truth when no one wants to listen, when no one really cares what's going on. And it's hard to stand alone when you need someone beside you. Your spirit, your faith must be strong. What one man can do is dream. What one man can do is love. What one man can do is change the world and make it young again. Here you see what one man can do. As shaded as his eyes were, that's how strong his mind was, and that's how strong his love for you and me. A friend to all the universe, grandfather of the future. Everything," Denver wrote, "that I would like to be." What would you like to be? What would you like your world to be? There are great minds and there are great voices telling us how it can be and how we can be part of it. Are we listening? Really listening? Are we responding? And are we willing? It takes courage. It takes dedication. It takes commitment. It takes knowing that God is a verb. And we are that verb, expressing. God is a verb that awaits our willingness to change our minds, to change our lives, and to change our world. You are not alone. We are in this together with God. And we have some work to do. Which takes me back, of course, to the beginning for me and John Denver's song, I Want to Live, which are not self-centered, not me-centered. They are universal. He sang, there are children raised in sorrow on a scorched and barren plain. There are children raised beneath the golden sun. There are children of the water and children of the sand, and they cry out through the universe. Their voices raised as one. I want to live. I want to grow. I want to see. I want to know. I want to share what I can give. I want to be. I want to live. For the worker and the warrior, the lover and the liar, for the native and the wanderer in kind, for the maker and the user, and the mother and her son, I'm looking for my family. And all of you are mine. We are standing all together, face to face and arm in arm. We are standing on the threshold of a dream. No more hunger, no more killing, no more wasting life away. It is simply an idea, and I know its time has come. The time is here. And the next time you wonder what you can do, next time you wonder what one person can do, remember this. One person can change the world for good or ill. If your mind is focused on God and being a verb in the life of God, all that you do will be for good. According to his assistant, James Michener, early in the month that he died at the age of 90, having accomplished, in quotes, having accomplished what he wanted to accomplish, elected to unhook himself from his life-saving dialysis. In the end, wrote his assistant, he was his own most interesting creation. In the end, so are you. Your most interesting creation. And in these interesting times, you are being challenged to create something wonderful. The world wants to live. Will you help it? Will we help it? There's so much to be done. Everywhere we look, there's work to be done. So let's do it. Let's do it. If not we, who? And if not now, when? I agree with you, Dana. Dana, he was a mystic. And you know, they write things after people go, and people say, well, you know, you needed to know the real person. No, I didn't. I didn't need to know the real person. Everyone has a life, and everyone in that life has things that are private. His lyrics were profound. He was gone way ahead of his time. Well, we lost someone very special when he went. The musician was a mystic. And I'm grateful for him having been here, and I'm grateful for having been able to share time on the same planet with him. And Bucky Fuller, who was a kid. Brilliant, brilliant mind. He was a guest speaker at the Huntington Beach Church of Religious Science when I went there. And it was awesome. And he was so wrapped up in this whole idea of God being a verb that works through each of us in our lives. And you know, if you take that just a step farther, it's mind-boggling. If God is a verb rather than a noun, which is probably one of the reasons why I'm very fond of calling it creation rather than God, because too many people have a whole bunch of stuff wrapped up in the word God, and not all of it is good. Some of it is. If it's good for you, great. Don't change. But if it doesn't, you know, look at other nouns, or simply go to the verb. God is creation. And not just the initial creation, not just the Garden of Eden 7 days creation story, good as that one is. It's a very creative story. But and the ongoing process of creation, you know, I've said for years, you know, even if you just want to go with the Big Bang theory, something had to bang. So something was there, some core of intelligence was there in the beginning, and everything was made out, everything that we know was made out of it. So there's creation as a verb, as an active, the activity of intelligence, of spirit, of creation itself. Wow. And then if everything was made out of it, then ultimately, even though it's taken a while, we too were made out of it, since that's what there was in the beginning. And here we are, and are we not verbs? We're taught to be nouns. Aren't we? I am this, I do that. Nouns, lots of nouns. My name is noun. But what if that's all just window dressing? What if that's just window dressing? What if the truth of us is that we're verbs? We're meant to be the action of God. And if that's true, and I believe it is, if that's true, then if God is love, we are meant to be loving. I am love. Nice. Be loving. That's a little harder. It involves other people. Tina says, I'm amazed at how much good can be done simply by smiling at others. No kidding. No kidding. If you're walking down the street, even with a mask on, folks, your face changes when you smile. Your little cheeks go up. People know. They see. They can tell. Your eyes twinkle. Your cheeks go up. Even with a mask on. Smile. It doesn't cost you a thing, and it will actually make you feel better. It will. It's hard to be grumpy and dumpy when you're smiling. It takes some real effort to do that. Smile at people. Be kind to people. Help where you can. Reach out where you can. Be God in action. Be the verb, not the noun. You'll always be the noun. That's not going to change. But be the verb. That's where the excitement is. That's where the change comes from. That's where how God shows up in the world. Through you, as you, being the activity of creation. So there's your how do we verb, Tina says. Just do it. It's about action. It's about action. It's about not just talking about it, but doing it. I love your plans for a cat sanctuary. I love that. I love that. I love that. We have 4 senior cats right now, and it would be lovely to know that if anything ever happened to us, that there was a place that they could go. One of them you already know. Would you believe she's a senior cat now? I'd show her to you because she's right here, inches away from me. But she doesn't like to be woken up when she's asleep, and she gets rather nasty about it. She's got a Fran Drescher voice. Marlene does. And,
show her.
No.
Show her.
No, well, let me, hold on.
Oh, you have
Marlene. She'll probably be on her very best. Let go of the printer. On her very best behavior. Marley.
Good. Tina gets her.
Marley. Whoops.
Send her.
Hold on. There we go. Marley. Look it. Say hello to Aunt Tina.
Your new mother.
Say hello. She's not going to talk. Which I wish she would, because she really does have a Fran Drescher voice.
Marlene Rose.
Oh, see, now you're going to use your sweet voice. We keep telling her, yes, baby. We keep telling her she's got a sweet voice, and then she has her Fran voice. And we tell her she's not going to get much attention if she uses her Fran voice, because it's like fingernails on a blackboard. Okay, Marley, you can go back to sleep, sweetheart. What in the world? Here, one more shot to the camera. Will you look up? There. See your pretty green eyes. Show your pretty green eyes. Nope. She doesn't like to have you wake her up. She doesn't like that. She's particular. Both our grays are kind of particular. I wonder if it comes with the color. Might do. She is kind of lovely. Her head's a little small for her body. I mean, if you want to pick her apart, head's a little small for her body. Then there's that voice. Um, she doesn't much get along with the other cats. In fact, she hisses and spits a lot. And these are the cats she was raised with. You know how tiny she was when we got her. Doesn't make any difference. But we love her. And she's with us. And we've said just because she can be the orneriest of the entire one, she'll probably outlast them all. So, Tina, you may end up with her back yet. Hang on. She's a pretty kitty. They're all pretty kitties. Cac is going down to get the crate to ship her to you now.
There are direct flights from Santa Barbara to Portland.
You'd miss her. Oh, well. Four. Count them. 4 of them and 2 dogs. And we're down on our count from where we have been, so. We had 6 cats at one point.
Mm-hmm.
And I miss the ones who are gone deeply. And the puppy that's gone deeply. But they make me smile. They make me happy. Don't they? They're worth all the love you can give them. So, will you two stop that? I am watching your conversation. Now just cut it out. I'm going to pray. You can join me if you want, or you can keep up your kibitzing on the side. I'm in need of prayer. So let's take a moment. Dana, will you join me? Because I think the other two are too wrapped up in what they're doing. Just close your eyes if that feels comfortable. Or soft focus. Whatever works. Whatever works. Escaping into prayer works for me. So we'll take a moment. I can hear you typing. We'll take a moment and recognize that right here, in the middle of all of this, there is God. And God, being a verb, has, I am sure, a sense of humor. And everything else. Everything else. There is nothing missing in God. And since we are all made out of that God stuff, since there was nothing else to make things out of, then we have everything as well. Everything. And we need only to change our minds to recognize and to realize that. Right here in the midst of us, in the midst of one of us, there is unlimited potential. There is divine wisdom. There is love beyond all knowing. There is peace. There is solution. There is power. Right here. It doesn't take an army or a militia. It takes only one knowing to change the world. Let us be that one. Let us commit in this moment to absolutely knowing that where we are, God is, and we are the activity of God, not just in our own lives, but in the world at large. And let us dedicate ourselves to being the most loving, the wisest, the clearest, the most powerful, the most understanding, the kindest verb that we can be. Let us dedicate ourselves here and now to being the greatest expression of creation that we can be in this moment and every moment. Let us know that we go with God because we can go no other way. We are the thing itself expressing. And let that knowing release the power within us, release the wisdom, release the love, release the understanding, release the creative power, and let it shine. We are one with creation. Creation itself is one. We cannot be separated from it. It is our very life. Knowing that, we are empowered. We are called, and we respond kindly, lovingly, creatively, powerfully. And we let that be so. And so it is. I thank you for being here tonight. We're going to go watch the debate. We've got it on tape. Thank you. Thank you for sharing the videos when you can to your own timelines so that people will find them. Thank you for your donations. They are much appreciated. Thank you, CAC, for keeping everybody in line.
Jewel,
It's all right.
you weren't hard to wrangle.
Yeah, but there'll be more listening afterwards.
There will
so. Until we meet again, whether it be Sunday or Wednesday at 7, Sunday at noon, know that you go with God, because it's just impossible to go any other way. Trust that. Believe in that. Live that, and you will change the world. See you soon. God bless.